Back in the fall of 2018, I had a meeting with the CEO of Nomor AB, a Nordic residential and commercial services business based in Stockholm. Nomor was owned by management and Norvester, a Norwegian private equity firm, and the board was in the process of determining whether now was the right time to sell. In recent years, they had been approached by a variety of strategic acquirers as well as private equity firms interested in buying the firm. So they brought us in for a few meetings, and we do what we typically do. When we took a look at the business, I learned as much as I possibly could about the asset. I learned as much as I possibly could about the potential acquisition universe, and we put together a valuation. And typically, our valuations are range constructs. This business will sell from X to Y. Now, at the time, I thought that business would likely sell for around 1.8 to 1.9 billion SEK, or 200 million USD. We had conversations with management, we had conversations with the board, and by early 2019, the board made the decision to go to formal process. Now, the board could have reached out to the buyers that approached them over the years and said, hey, make us an offer. But being owned by a sophisticated private equity firm that's in the business of buying and selling businesses, they know better. If you're going to sell an asset, you run a formal process. If you're going to buy an asset, you do everything in your power to avoid a formal process. So when we sat down in pre-planning sessions in early 2019, one of the first things that I focused on is the asset itself. How unique is it? How differentiated is it? Is it one of 5,000 firms that are exactly the same, or is it a completely differentiated, unique asset? What sort of scarcity value does it have? Is it of massive scale in a particular industry? Where is it located geographically? What sort of resources and capabilities does the actual target, the asset itself, bring to larger acquirers or bring to private equity firms? Because, at the end of the day, an acquisition is not just a financial transaction. Companies actually buy companies for unique resources and capabilities that could be leveraged in the future. So I really want to understand the asset. I also really want to understand the buyer universe. So when I think about the Nomor process, we identified between 6 and 10 potential strategic acquirers. Those were companies that are in similar or the same line of business, typically publicly traded companies or large private equity platforms that could acquire a company like Nomor. And then we looked at potential private equity suitors. Like, how many private equity firms have the capacity to buy a business the size of Nomor in the geography that Nomor is in, doing the sorts of things that Nomor was doing? And we came up with between 50 and 60 total potential acquirers in our acquisition universe. And the reason why I bring up the acquisition universe is when we're starting to think through what sort of process we'll use, the asset itself, as well as the acquisition pool, is very important. And I'll give you an example. Let's assume for a second that Nomor had only one potential buyer in the world. Unfortunately, there are companies that literally have 0 buyers or only 1 buyer. But if Nomor had only 1 buyer, it's very unlikely that I would have run a formal auction on Nomor. It's possible, but it's unlikely, because when you've only got 1 buyer, it's extremely risky to run an auction process because, number one, you might scare that buyer off if they don't want to participate in an auction. And number 2, one wrong move and you've got a busted auction. So when you've got 1 buyer, you might be better served by doing direct cross-the-table style negotiations. But as you start to get 2, 3, 5, 6 is a nice juicy number, the more buyers you have in the mix, the more it allows you to move into auction-like sale processes.